How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Forever Arsenal podcast post-season now. So we're heading into the transfer window. We're going to talk about the transfer window, how big it is for Arsenal, how big it is for Kroenke, and get some of the ideas from myself and the gentleman below me, to the side of me, and Lee Judge is there in the bottom right corner too. And yeah, let's get into it. I mean, there's no predictions to make. There's no games to review. Jordan's already cutting in 32 seconds.
No. Before we get into the show, I just want to say I really enjoyed my victory parade through Brixton High Road last week. So many Arsenal fans congratulating me on my first title. You know, really happy for me. The comments are saying it as well. It was a really good. I don't know where you lot were. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
That's it. That's what I was looking for. The stars. You know what I mean? Like, stars. That's what
for our audio listeners. Yeah, Turkish the fraud has put up 2 stars by his name. You might have won the title on points, but I won the moral title. Yeah, I won the moral Forever Arsenal Championship. We all know who the real champion is. Turkish.
See, this is the problem with Arsenal fans celebrating second. This is the problem with our fan base. Why are we celebrating? This ain't success, Jordan. This ain't fucking.
Yeah, but you're celebrating the past. It's been a week now. We've moved on. Like that's an old table. Done.
Before we move on, though, we need to address something. Like the shirt's gone up an extra £10.
Yeah.
So we're like, you know, now I yes, I do believe that the one that comes bottom should pay that extra £10. I don't know what you guys think, like, you know what I mean? So
I already pay an extra tenner.
Yeah, but it's gone up a tenner now. So what, you know, what do we do? I'm just saying, what do we do?
So the shirt's 80 quid. There's
no. We're getting the Invincible shirt.
Oh wow.
Has that always been right?
If Lee was fucking getting the official match worn version last year, signed by the whole team and all that, I think I'm well within my rights to want the exclusive.
So 110 divided by 3.
Kind of.
I'm gonna get my calculator out.
Divided by 3? Aren't you paying more?
Nope.
Well, so normally it'd be 30, 30 and 40, wouldn't it? But somewhere we've got to find an extra £10 from somewhere.
This is killing me.
And I think if you come bottom, I should have a big punishment for it, like, you know what I mean? And that should be the extra.
I don't know about you guys, but I think the fact and the way that Turkish won the title, I mean, a shirt is a bit much. I think a pair of shorts, a pair of Arsenal FC shorts. No, because when you think about it, he won the title, but 4 times late, 5 times missed game day.
Yeah,
recording.
Well, personally, I think it should be an Arsenal alarm clock. That's what I think it should get.
There you go, Lee. And we'll get you an
alarm. They say time is money. Yeah. So how much has he cost us?
Right. Very good point. Mate. What do you reckon? What are you saying, James? Is we give him £100 and he makes it up the rest of it himself?
Right. They're right again. What do I say? How do I cover my tracks?
It's a disgrace. Can we get Sharai on the show?
Yeah.
Disgrace.
Yeah. They haven't got a leg to stand on.
I think he's actually got him on the call, you know.
Nice one.
He probably has.
Yeah, I've just spoken to my lawyer and he says you ain't got a leg to stand on. You ain't got a leg to stand on. So I'm going to sit back and let you three decide how the extra £10 is split up.
We'll have to discuss that.
Why don't you just ask Aaron Ramsdale, Lee? I'm sure he doesn't mind chipping in a tenner.
Yeah, I'll ask him tonight when I see him.
Just give us a shirt.
Oh yeah.
Do you know?
That's a way better solution.
It's the first time in the Arsenal goalkeeper shirt has been sold out. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
No one really buys a goalkeeper shirt, do they? I've never bought a goalkeeper shirt, but they are sold out.
In the interest of editorial knowledge for our listeners and viewers, Lee, they might want to know why we're talking about Aaron Ramsdale. Do you want to just let the viewers know what's going on?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that. I was in the airport on Sunday, and Aaron Ramsdale walked past, I just give it the hi and all that and he come over and said, "Hey Lee, how you doing?" Had a hug and had a chat for about 5 minutes. It was surreal.
You got a hug.
It was absolutely surreal, chatting about things like, what a lovely guy, and yeah, it was unbelievable, and last night walking around the town as well, so he's like my new mate, all right, Aaron.
Friends. Goalkeeper
What did he tell you? Like, before we start, inevitably ripping you about it, but what did he give us some insight? What did he say?
Yeah, he just said he's over here for 4 days before meeting up with England. Obviously, as what he's doing is having a little mini break before he goes off to England, then he goes on his main holiday with the family afterwards and that. I'm just saying about that, just sort of about what how well he's doing and everything like that. It was just really formal sort of a chat. It was really, really nice. You know what I mean? And when you're talking to someone, you feel like they want to get away from you and all. It wasn't like that. It was really nice. It was really, really nice. And the thing is, from our point of view, when players engage with you like that, we must be doing something right, guys. That's how I look at it, and so it's a big plus for all of us, and he just said, with the Fourever Arsenal podcast, he did actually say, you've got to get rid of the one that keeps just watching the highlights. That's the one that he said, so,
Can I just say, that could have gone in any
You were doing so
direction.
well.
I was going to mention the tactical insight, but I didn't.
Yeah, you could have mentioned. I was sat there
I
thinking,
did mention that to him, I wanted him to enjoy his holiday, I did,
Good on you. So can I confirm now that we can add Ramsdale to the list with their due of people you'll never slag off ever again? They can do no wrong.
That's it now, it is a funny story because obviously see his dad at away games, and he had a little dig about giving him seven one time on the. I don't hardly ever do the ratings. I'll give him a 7 one time, So that was at the Nottingham Forest game, and Robbie says to me, "Can you do the ratings this week with me?" So he goes, "Aaron Ramsdale, what do you reckon?" I went 10 out of 10. That's it now, He's England's #1 as far as I'm concerned. 10 out of 10 every week, and that's it, and don't expect me to be having a go at him,
Aaron Ramsdale's going to flap at one that's going to fall into the back of the net, and Lee will say, "Well, what could he do? What could he do about it?"
It was wind. It was the wind.
He's got Lee in his back pocket now. That's it. Next season.
He's sold, sealed, and delivered. You know what I mean? Do you know what? If he makes a mistake, unlucky, Aaron, unlucky. If Turner makes it, you American, you useless. You know what I mean? Get back to playing baseball. You know what I mean? But unlucky, Aaron, unlucky.
Oh, there we have it. Where Lee's loyalties lie heading into next season, so don't expect any Ramsdale slander from him. But we're here.
Can I just that? So there were 2 things that I wanted to address on this podcast. Firstly was the Ramsdale stuff, and thank you for fitting us in, Lee. The second thing I just wanted to say to the these are people I really appreciate. Everyone who follows this podcast. We are apparently the 2nd biggest sports podcast in Botswana.
I'll take that.
Get in.
I'll take that.
What a great stat! I found that out today.
What is first? The tactical show?
Yeah, well, maybe. Why not? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, it would surprise me.
It surprised me. Yeah.
No, that's actually the standards I set for myself. But what a great. So everyone in Botswana is supporting the podcast. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I've just checked 2.5 million population. That's listen. We've got a big market over there. It seems maybe Botswana is on the
biggest sports podcast. That's unreal.
I think we need to speak to Robbie about going over there to do a Forever Arsenal live.
I'm up for that.
We've got to get this on the road, guys. We've got to get this show on the road.
We do.
We need to get it on the road.
100%. Big up everyone from Botswana tuning in and all around the world. Make sure you hit the like button. 1,000 likes, as always, people. Let's get the likes up and leave your comments for comments of the day. We'll get to that at the end of the show. No predictions, no previews, no reviews. It is transfer window time. And the first question I want to pose to the panel is the same question I started the supporters club with the other day with Sharoy and Chris Hudson. Is this the biggest transfer window of the Kroenkes era? Because that that opinion tends to come around every 12 months. This is the biggest transfer window. No, this is now the biggest transfer window. However, as much as I've been guilty of that in the past, looking at where Arteta's taken us from coming into now, 3-4 years later, clean wage bill, young core, British players in there as well, and Champions League football, which means Champions League money, as well as a title challenge. We were the closest to Man City throughout the season. We was the closest to them at the end of the season, come 38 games. I don't think we have been better placed, not only in the Kroenke era, but the Emirates era too. Since moving into the new stadium, we haven't been better placed to go into a transfer window and do what is necessary. Who do I want to hear from first? James, let me hear from you first. Is this the biggest window of the Kroenke's era?
Very hard to think that it's not. I don't know. I know it's two different questions. I don't know if it's the hardest. I think their Champions League money, Arsenal's reputation is far better today than it was 2 years ago. You stump up the money for Rice, I think you get him. You stump up the money for Caicedo, I think you get him. I think 2 years ago, when we finished 8th, and there were lots of questions around Arteta, and the squad was a bit of a mess, and Chelsea and seemingly Tottenham hiring Conte or whatever, it felt like other clubs in London had their kind of shit together compared to us. I think that was harder. So to actually have come out with a good window with the likes of Ramsdale and White coming in and players like that, and then having to get rid of a lot of players, of course, when you cancel contracts, that helps. So I don't know if it's the hardest, but I definitely think it's maybe the biggest in terms of statement that can be made, maybe. Because...
Did I say hardest or biggest?
You said biggest. I just wanted to throw that dimension in because biggest can sometimes mean like how difficult it is to pull off. So I don't know. It's difficult. Probably the biggest because you're trying to now get us up to another level. But when we had a fully fit 11, we were kind of at a level that could compete with City, and now it's about adding even more and depth in the Champions League. I don't know. Yeah, I'm inclined to say yes.
Inclined to say yes, Lee.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is, and also I don't think there can be any excuses at the end of the day. James makes a fantastic point when he just turns around and says, if you stump up the money, you get these two players. And I'm fed up with hearing, we're only going to get one, or we need both. And we've got Champions League football, Champions League money. Apparently, a kitty getting to the Champions League gets you £170 million. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, we're going to have to do a little bit of wheeling and dealing and get rid of a few players. A sacrifice is going to have to be made somewhere along the line. But I expect things to be done this season. I really do. And I don't want us being skinflinting and missing out on things. I think it's a massive win for this for Edu. And I say, the whole process, if you like. Because in the past, we've missed out on a couple of the main signings a little bit, we can't afford to do that now. So if we was to go into this transfer window, for instance, and we miss out on Caicedo and we also miss out on Rice, where would that put Arsenal? Where would that put? I think in a poor position. So I think it's massive that we get these deals done. I keep hearing there's a medical plan this week for someone or whatever. I don't know if that's true, but we'll have to wait and see. But the actual transfer window. Say again?
Who told you that?
Oh, I can't say that, you know what I mean? So, just a little bit of inside info that I get every now and then.
Is he the Arsenal goalkeeper by any chance?
No, it wasn't by the Arsenal goalkeeper by any chance. It's the same fella that actually gives me the information of the fixtures and all that, and things like that. So, I don't know if it's true or not. But someone said to me the other day, the transfer window don't open for another couple of weeks anyway, officially, even though that things do happen. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's a massive window. And James, you said that, which I think it is. Maybe it's not massive, but it's a statement window. This is the key. It's a statement window where Arsenal are. Arsenal are in the best position that they've been in a very, very long while since winning the title, going into titles, and this is when Arsenal were. Everybody wanted to come to the Arsenal, didn't they? You know what I mean? Because Man United, I think we're in that position again. You know, you look at the young players you've got. Why wouldn't you want to play with these young guys coming through as well if you're 21, 22? And the thing is with Caicedo is that let's forget about this. In January, Chelsea come in for him, right? And he didn't do nothing, did he? When Arsenal come in for him, he put in a transfer request. So realistically, if you're paying 70 million or prepared to pay 70 million pounds for him in January, why?
I think we've lost Lee.
You know, it's a no-brainer.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
Wait, don't shred. Oh, he's back. We lost it for a sec, Lee.
Oh no, yeah, sorry about that. Like, dodgy internet round here, like that.
Oh, pay the extra for the top internet, Lee. What's wrong with you, man? Even like Julian, for fuck's sake. Wow. Jordan,
it's free. It's free.
Jordan, is this the biggest window since winning our last Premier League title?
It's a hard question to answer because, as the boys have kind of explained, there's different ways of answering that can lean yes or no. I'm going to say no, because I think the most important transfer window since we won the title was about 3-4 years ago, the year that Ozil left, because that was there was two windows. I can't remember who exactly, but I remember us getting rid of 2 or 3 important players that needed to be moved on. I think it was the same kind of 12-month cycle that Mustafi, Kolasinac, there was some dead wood. And I think, not trying to be kind of trying to overly clever about this, but I always think that when we talk about transfer windows, we forget about the outgoings. And sometimes to be successful, the outgoings are just as important as, in that time, more important than the incomings. There's no point bringing in quality players if you've still got crappy players with bad attitudes who are not hungry, still rotting in your squad. So the reason why I think that window was more important was because I think it laid the foundation to say, from the board, enough's enough. We're prepared to take a hit. We're prepared to lose money to start again. And we've seen the last 3-4 windows how we've built upon that. Get the trash out. Get the rubbish out that don't want to win, that aren't going to bring success to this club. Get them out first. So I don't necessarily think that just bringing in the player to win a title is seen as the most important window. I think it's a multifaceted question, really. I also don't like this idea about transfer windows and transfers being held as the number one ingredient to success. I don't want to kind of sound highfalutin here, but Arsenal do need some transfers, 100%. But I think there's so many more ingredients. As City don't blow people out the window with big, sexy, high price transfer fees. It's about who you buy and how you acquire them. And my final point would be one of 2 routes we can take. You can either go and spend 300 million this window, Turkish, and bring in 4 top players, or as Brentford, Brighton, and other teams are showing, if you're just a bit less lazy, there are quality players out there that you don't have to spend 80 million for. So I'm really keen to see where Arsenal go with this window. Are we going to sign the headline players that we're linked with, or we're going to sign players that actually are just as good, but for a third of the price? So no, I don't think it's the most important transfer window since from the title, but it's definitely a very, very important one for sure.
There's a couple of things I want to take out from what all 3 of you said, but on that note, what you just mentioned, Jordan, don't you think we've done that work already in terms of the more shrewd signings, maybe the Ramsdale coming in for 26, rising to 30, even maybe you look at Ben White now at 50 and not necessarily look at it as a bargain, but you look at the market now and what you might need to spend on a player like that, it could be considerably more. Don't you think we're at the stage now where it's the Van Dijk and Alisson's needed to complete the puzzle?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, there'll be a player next season, guys, who plays for a Brentford or a Brighton or a Burnley. There'll be a player that plays for a mid-table team that we will look at and think, how the hell did we miss him? And then they picked him up for 6 million, and he would be just as good or in a similar bracket to a Declan Rice, but for a fraction of the price. So I guess what I'm saying is that transfers aren't just about going out and getting those headline Van Dijk, Alissons that get you over the line. I get why Liverpool did that. I think Liverpool were kind of closer to a title than we are now, sorry. So I think 2 top signings don't make us champions next season, in my opinion. Whereas for Liverpool, they were just two top players short. So I think we need more. But maybe it's not an either or. Maybe you can get your headline 80 million, 90 million pound player and get some kind of nice quality players to fill out the team and squad as well for 15, 20 mil. I'm just making the point. I don't think it's all about spending 400 million. And here, this is the title challenging team. I think it's about being smart. And I think there are teams out there that don't have our resources that are doing better business than us. And I'm like, why aren't we doing that? Why are we just being lazy? And just quickly to Lee's point about the Declan Rice thing, it's concerning me. I don't want Declan Rice for what it's worth. I don't want Declan Rice. I don't want him. The mere fact the club say they want him and that deal isn't pretty much all but sewn up. I know the final's tomorrow. I know they've got the final tomorrow. But you can't tell me if that was a Man City or Chelsea, that deal wouldn't have been wrapped up. And the whole thing now would be, that's his last game for West Ham. I'm not convinced that deal will get done. I'm just not convinced. I think how we move this summer, I'm interested in how assertive we are and how intelligent we are with what we do.
Lee, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, I hear what Jordan's saying, but it's not necessarily, you know, challenging for Manchester City for the title as well. It's cementing our place in the Champions League for a few seasons as well. And I say that with the, you know, like you look at the Champions League next season, 3 teams that were in it last season have gone out of it. Liverpool, Tottenham and Chelsea have gone out of it, like, you know, because they didn't do the business, I think, in the transfer window. I think that they all were not quite good enough, like, you know. So I think recruitment now is important, not just to challenge Manchester City, which I think that we need to. You know, I think by bringing in, I think realistically, if we bring in Casido and a Rice, we challenge Manchester City again next season. But what that does is also means that we've got a very, very good chance of keeping in the top 4. We don't want to be in the top 4 this season and then out of it next season and then back. You know, we've got to go forward. And I think that, you know, these signings. It's great to get in a $6 million Martinelli, and which we've done. We've done some very, very shrewd signings, and we've also brought a few players through the ranks as well. Saved ourselves a lot of money. It's now time to go big, Premiership proven, and make sure that we maintain what we're doing.
But the players that we've been linked with, who we associate as going big, I don't think they're that good. The £100 million players that we're being linked with, they're not £100 million players. If we're going big, go and get Bellingham. If that's what going big is, okay, if we're going to spend £100+ million, go and get Bellingham. Declan Rice isn't going big.
This is why I can't stand Man United and Chelsea in particular in the transfer market, because prices are so inflated, because they would, you know, Chelsea did just spend 100 million on Enzo. Has he looked that good since he's come to the Premier League? He's looked good. Fine. Good passer on him. But no, Mudryk. Yeah, we'll just pay the 100 million. And fair enough, Arsenal were actually near enough going to get to that, but ultimately they didn't. Man United, we really need a right winger. Oh, we'll get Jadon Sancho for 72, 75 million, whatever it is. Oh, he doesn't work. Oh, we'll get Anthony the year after for 90 million, whatever it is. Like, you know, it's so frustrating. So now, actually, players that aren't all that, you know, or listen, there's clearly something about them. Of course there is. But let's even say they're just very good players. Very good players should be around 50, 60 million for me. You're going near 100. You're spending on that Van Dijk, you know, you're on Alisson, on those players that really do make the difference. Now, for what it's worth, I know we disagree on it, Jordan. That's fine. I actually do think Declan Rice in that mold is going to be worth the 100 million. I just rate him that much. But it's so hard to know now. It's kind of so hard to know because of that's just the price that a lot of clubs are operating at. Caicedo, I read today that they want about 100 million. The guy's played like 14 months of first team football in the Premier League. He's worth near 100 million. But that, you know, I think Arsenal need to, if they're going to part with that cash, they need, you know, Arteta needs to be really convinced. None of this bringing in a really good backup. You know, we wanted Alessandro, who ended up with Zinchenko. We all love Zinchenko, and he's been brilliant for us. But you know, if you're going to part with that money, it's got to be exactly who Mikel Arteta wants, because he's proven, I think, that he deserves our trust in the market, in the transfer window. So I'm kind of with you. Like, I think Arsenal are doing the respectful thing. They're letting West Ham finish their final. Declan Rice will focus on that. I actually don't even think he'd really fully entertain it while this final's waiting. The minute it's done, full-time whistle goes. Declan, Congratulations or commiserations, whichever it is. Sign on the dotted line, please. And they need to get moving quick.
I'm with you. I mean, the market's crazy, to say the least, and I completely agree with Jordan. I understand where you're coming from, James, in terms of what the market is now, and thinking Declan Rice is or will be worth 100 million. But the reality is, I mean, I come from an era where Ronaldo went from United to Real Madrid for 90 million, and that's always been the marker for me. I know it's changed a hell of a lot since then, but you are right. United and Chelsea have been the reason it has changed, because initially starting with 90 million on Pogba, and then Enzo 100 million this season, and multiple transfers throughout the last 5 to 10 years mean this is the market. And as much as we can sit here and try and think sensibly about it, and I guess it's right to be sensible, there's also a bit of me that wants to apply that necessary pressure on the ownership, because it's their fault that we are in, we've waited this long, or it's taken this long to get in this position. Why wasn't they buying top players 10 years ago? Why wasn't they buying top players 5 years ago? Because they wasn't full owners. Now they're full owners. This is the market. This is the bed you chose to lie in, Kroenke. This is what you waited on. Now go and do what you need to do. If Arteta wants Rice, go get Rice. If Arteta wants Caicedo, go get them. If it's 200 million for both, I don't really care.
I agree with that, Turkish, but you got to think about it as well. Look at Arsenal. When has big transfer signings for Arsenal ever worked out?
Oh, we've only made one.
Well, if I'm talking in relative terms, even when back 15 years ago, if you look at even Mesut Ozil, we've discussed Ozil before. That at the time was a lot of money for Arsenal to spend on a transfer.
Yeah, it was. 42 million was what 70 million is now, probably.
A lot of money. Did that work out over his Arsenal career?
I would argue yes. We
7 years. That was not a 42 million pound transfer. The point I'm making is that we have not got history. Our best players generally aren't players that we've signed for big money. Our players are normally shrewd or homegrown. So just because we're City, I don't buy this narrative that that's the market. If you want a £100 million winger, you got to spend £100 million. No. If we'd have got Caicedo last year instead of Brighton signing or wherever they did sign him, and he was in our midfield this year, we would have gone further to the end of the season to push City. If we'd have found those gems are out there. I just don't buy this idea that if you want to win the title, you've got to spend 100 million on each player.
But there is a balance. There is a balance to it. I know why you're saying you don't buy it, but who's been the most successful clubs of the Premier League era? All in. We're going to say Man United. Yeah. You're going to say City and
Chelsea.
And what's the difference between Man United, City, Chelsea, and, for example, Arsenal and Liverpool and even Tottenham, is that Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham tend to try and be shrewd in the markets and might go for a plan B because of a 5-10 million differential on the plan A, whereas City, United, Chelsea, they go in and listen, going in doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win everything or you're going to win something, but going in ambition.
The other thing is, I've got to bring up Jordan on that point. Those gems like Caicedo, don't think he's playing under a different pressure, playing for Brighton than he is Arsenal.
That's true.
So they can develop a bit better when they're playing at Brighton and then move on to the other thing, and that's why there's always been that market for the smaller clubs, because they develop and then the bigger club comes and cashes in on it, because that's how it is. They develop team players differently. And fair credit to Arsenal, we've developed Saka and Martinelli through what we've had to do. So give the club some sort of credit there, And I agree that it's not always about sign, but you are right. I remember going to Chelsea, going through their tunnel. 1950 was the last time they won the league. Soon as Abramovich started, there's titles all the way up, because they've spent the money. Manchester City have won nothing in my lifetime until the money come in. Money does talk, and unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with now. We're up against these sort of teams. We've always been up against Man United, but listen, in the history, players. You won't probably, some people listening to this won't remember. Malcolm McDonald was an Arsenal record signing back in the 70s. We do go in, but it wasn't, to be fair to what Jordan's saying, it didn't work. He wasn't that much of a success because injury took its toll. We have gone in big. Dennis Bergkamp was
I was thinking, Lee, he's the only one I can think of that of his time was a big transfer that worked out.
And when you think about it, we've all been spending our money left, right, and centre for many years. You know, we deserve to have the big Players' Cup, don't we? I think we do.
Yeah.
I think there's a bigger question around Declan Rice and Caicedo, actually. And I'm going to give you a lot of credit, Turkish, because he opened my eyes to this, which was everyone kind of kept saying, Xhaka, we need someone better in that position. Declan Rice, oh, he's leaving, or Declan Rice coming in. You rightly asked the question, like, is Declan Rice even that much better in the final third than Granit Xhaka? That's not to say he's not a better player, but in terms of that kind of in the final third, you got me thinking, because I was doing Lee's favourite ever show, Tactical Insight with Graham. I'll always mention it once every episode, by the way. And we were building what we think Arsenal will look like next year. And I have my theory. Go watch the show. But I came out of it going, it just doesn't feel right, Declan Rice, in that. With Xhaka, the reason I kind of got it was he was always renowned for having a really good left foot and scoring goals from distance and actually had a pass on him. I'm not saying Declan Rice can't do these things. I think Declan Rice has maybe a little bit more drive with the ball. He can probably run at people. He's a bit more of a ball carrier. I think he's maybe a little bit better on the press. I don't know. But it did get me thinking, so how does Arteta want to use Declan Rice? And everywhere you read, reporters are still saying Arsenal's still in this Caicedo hunt. Chelsea might be the most talked of. Arsenal's still in it. So where does he fit? Because I don't think Arteta's done with Thomas Partey. I think Partey's still his number 6 and will be next season. So I've got a lot of questions. I'm very intrigued. But for what it's worth, my theory, and I'm supporting tactical, I think Caicedo will play right back and invert, and I think Rice will play Xhaka's position. That's my theory. But yeah, it's lots of questions.
I asked the three of you guys in the last show, and I asked you because I genuinely hadn't thought it through, so I didn't have an answer or an opinion myself. I was keen to hear your opinions. I asked you if you thought that a midfield three of Rice, Caicedo, and Odegaard could win the Champions League or push City all the way next season. And I think you all said you think it could. I went away and thought about it. I don't think it does. If our midfield two next year is Caicedo and Rice, we're not winning the title, we're not winning the Champions League. They're good players.
How do you quantify that, though?
Because I'm looking at, first of all, you've got pretty much a brand new midfield. So I think if you got your midfield, that I think is not great. You're kind of ripping up your midfield two. For two, I think it's arguable. Are Caicedo and Rice significantly better than Partey and Granit Xhaka? I'm not so sure there's a massive gap there, personally. And if they're your marquee signings, I don't think that's enough to win you the title. I don't. I'm happy to be proven wrong. But I think we're just buying this narrative that two is the two. And I just think to myself, in a quarterfinal, semi-final of Champions League, does that two get you through?
Jordan, I'm really big on this whole gutting our midfield thing. If Partey and Xhaka are out and Rice and Caicedo are in, I think, as brilliant as I think those two players are, and we'd be over the moon that we have and blah, blah, I think we have to brace ourselves for maybe a little bit of a slow start from Arsenal. I don't think they're just going to pick it up and run away with it immediately because they don't have the experience. I'm talking age on the other two. And also, they just haven't been in this team. I mean, Xhaka and Partey have been there since day one with Arteta. Okay, Partey was his first major signing. It will take a little while to bed them in. So I'm in favour of 100, one of them staying. And then you kind of add, and maybe one has to bed in, and then the other is kind of brought in when you need or whatever. That's how I'd want the depth added. For what it's worth, I also think it's a really good thing that this Granit Xhaka stuff with Leverkusen's really quietened down. He said we'd have heard last week what was going to go on, and nothing has. I'd like to keep him. I'll be honest. The form he's been in this season, I'd keep him. Add 2 midfielders. Done. Your midfield sorted.
I agree because I think we're weak. I think we're weak. I think we was weak in that position. I'll tell you why. When Partey was injured against Man City, look at the meltdown from there. Like, look at Partey's form towards the end of the season. No one to replace him. Xhaka missed. Was it the Southampton game? And then he wasn't quite right at the Man City game. Still wasn't well. Yes. We suffered. You know what I mean? Like, why? Because we haven't got players to come in at that level. if you brought in those two midfield players, the level don't change. I agree with you. I think maybe, James, we're going to have to sacrifice one, because not just on transfer fee, on wages as well. So I think that maybe like Xhaka will be, but I'm with you. I don't want to see Xhaka and Partey going in, and we bring these two in, because that is not what we need. We need to bulk up that midfield, because when one of them's not playing, we can. And I do believe this. I think if we'd have had Caicedo, I know they didn't want to sell it in, so I'm not having a go at anybody at Arsenal. I think if he'd have signed him in January, Arsenal would have won this league, because I think when Partey dropped off, we would have still had the same level of midfield.
I'm not convinced. Sorry, I'm kind of with James in that I would keep Granit Xhaka as a squad player. We can't go there at the moment. I'm not convinced Partey's there next season. I think they may move him on for non-footballing reasons. I'll leave that there. But I wouldn't be surprised if the club move him on for non-footballing reasons. So this is the reason why I'm thinking if Caicedo and Rice are our two coming in, I don't think that competes with City anyway. But if you are bringing those two in, you've got to keep at least one of Partey and Xhaka. At least one. That's just my opinion.
And you've got Jorginho there, who I think the term "did a job" comes to mind. He did a job whenever he was required. I never thought our level really dropped because he was in the team. Whereas I did feel that when Saliba stepped out and Holding came in. So you think there's an option there as well. That I think in the Champions League groups has been their experience, played well for Arsenal since we signed him. There's someone you can sort of depend on somewhat. So I think the midfield is so fascinating, because we've also been linked to James Maddison, and Smith Rowe staying. So I have no idea what Arteta's trying to do.
None of these midfield combinations impress me in terms of winning the title. I'll be honest. They just don't.
If I asked you 12 months ago, would Partey and Xhaka be part of a midfield that pushes Man City to the last 6 games of the season? I know the answer would have been no.
Mm-hmm.
My point is that in modern day football, it's so hard to take a player's name or a couple players' names and say, can we achieve this with Tom, Dick, or Harry? When reality, it's the system that does it now.
Agree.
That's a great point.
And this system has shown that it's pushed us from 8th to 5th to 2nd. So the names, I'm actually going into next season. Partey, Caicedo as 6 options. We know Caicedo can do the right back inverted role as well, and Declan Rice, Xhaka as the 8 options. I'd be over the moon with those options in midfield, if I'm honest. I'm not entertained. All right, the end. Before Xhaka's rumors or the news came about that Bayer Leverkusen were interested and he wants to, have a new challenge and whatnot, I wasn't entertaining losing Partey or Xhaka. I thought they'd still be part of the side next season, and rightly so, because I think some of what Jordan's saying is right. You can't just gut the whole midfield and expect the same consistency we've seen this season. Hence why I'd like to remain consistent with some of the personnel there, but add in the necessary attributes required, because I think if you look at Caicedo, technically and athletically, I don't think we have anyone on par with him in the midfield at this moment in time. When I look at Declan Rice in terms of his heart, passion, leadership, desire, those qualities he possesses, I don't think we have anyone like him in our midfield at the moment. Closest would be Granit Xhaka because of his leadership qualities that people talk about, but the reality is Declan Rice is a better player. So I think those two improve our midfield, which was a midfield that should have really got over the line. Say that again, Lee?
Legs as well.
Yeah.
Get around the pitch a little bit better. I think that let us down towards the end, we didn't have that energy in there. Partey obviously was not quite at his best, and Xhaka, had that illness and all that. And we look, Jorginho, as James said, come in and done a good job. And we're all gloating about that. But we want better than that. We need better than that, than just doing a good job. I'm sorry, that's not, Jorginho becomes a very, very important squad player. They're important, don't get me wrong, they are important, but they're not the ones that are going to take to the promised land.
No, I agree, but if I were to say who's been better for each club, Jorginho or Calvin Phillips, Jorginho's been better for us than
100%.
Phillips has barely kicked a ball for Man City. Why? Because Rodri's always fit, always available. By the way, an underrated aspect of Granit Xhaka that I think is also worth considering. But you know, so that's why I don't really mind Jorginho having the Calvin Phillips role in our team. Come on, every now and again, recycle it, start a few cup games, start a few Champions League group stage games. Hopefully, if we get that secured early and all that. So I don't really mind that too much. I think we talk about depth. That's depth I'm pretty happy with. But I also don't want us having a situation with our squad next year. And I want to get this right. I don't mind not having 22 players, like almost like for likes in every position. I don't mind that because I actually don't think many teams even really have that anymore. But the solutions we have to be natural fits. So when we didn't have Granit Xhaka, we went, cool, we'll play Fabio Vieira there. Nothing alike.
Yeah.
Nothing alike. Yeah, he maybe can stand in the same pockets and maybe do something creative from there, but nothing alike. What we need is more natural fits. Now, I actually don't think Xhaka and Rice are that comparable, but can I see Rice getting forward into the front line, trying to drive us forward and then slotting back next to a Caicedo or a Partey or a Jorginho? Yeah, that feels a total fit. Maybe he lacks something and I get that, and we've talked about that, but that feels much more like ideal. And, you know, again, bringing in Rob Holding, you know, to play the high line. And so you resort to Kiwior, who could play the high line better, but he's not right-footed, which is important for the balance Arteta wants. Just need to make sure that whatever solutions we have going into next season for rotation and injuries, they are legitimate solutions, not just, square pegs, round holes, as they say.
And that's a great point. And leading on to that, that is where you bring in Caicedo and say Rice, very, very expensive, but can play two roles. You know, straight away you can say, right, okay, Caicedo then can play at right back, he can get games there, and play Partey, etc. And with Ben Rice, Declan Rice, he can play both. He can do the Xhaka role and he can do the holding role as well, like, you know what I mean? So, and I think if you ever look at Arteta, he does like that in his players. You know, you look at people like that he spent a lot of money on. People like Ben White, everybody thinks it's a lot of money, but he can play right back central defence, you know what I mean? So I agree with you, because if you're bringing in 22 players, you know what I mean, there's a little thing called a wage bill. And you've got to be able to, you know, keep in the rules of that. Like. So somewhere along the line, you may have to go with a squad of 20, you know, bring in a couple of youngsters and things like that. So, and don't forget, we're playing a lot of these guys, like our younger guys now. We're doubling their money as well, like, you know what I mean, the Sakas, the Martinellis, and hopefully the Salivas. All of their wages is going to be going up, you know. So it's very, very important that we trim the squad down properly.
Yeah.
And Lee, if it's a group of 18 that he trusts, 19, whatever it might be that he trusts, you're not going to have the same injury problems because they're coming in and out. Everyone's getting the appropriate rest. This isn't just 11, play till you're exhausted and your legs break or whatever, and then we'll bring someone in. You know, this is cool. So we've got Dortmund on the Wednesday night, and then we've got Everton away on Sunday. Tricky schedule. Xhaka, you play Wednesday. Rice, you play Sunday. That's fine. That is fine. That's how City do it. Is it Bernardo? Is it Mahrez? But the point is, they're not going to get to have, or they're not as susceptible to injury because they are not out on the field as much, and they're not playing week after week after week and putting that stress on themselves.
Before we take a couple steps back from my next question, I just want to clarify on that Xhaka and Declan Rice conversation we had, James, and the points you raised. Both started 36 games last season, one coming off the bench as well, so 37 in total. Xhaka got 7 goals, 7 assists. Rice, surprisingly, 4 goals, 4 assists. So it's actually not far off when you consider the teams, and, you know, we was up there, free scoring, West Ham struggling. So, you know, and there's been a natural progression in terms of final third output to Declan Rice in his last 3, 4, 5 years as well. So we can only hope that every signs for us that progression will continue and surpass what Xhaka done for us last season. Let's take a couple steps back. Next question I have is kind of centered around what we've talked about already, transfer window, the biggest transfer window. You know, if I changed it from, is it Arsenal's biggest window since of Kroenke's era? If I change it to, is it Kroenke's biggest transfer window? I think that probably makes more sense and would find more of an agreement there, because Jordan's right. When we needed to get rid of players, that was just as important as, let's say, this window in terms of the work we had to do. But what this window comes with is expectation. The expectation that next season we will challenge again. The expectation that next season in the Champions League we won't make a fool of ourselves. So there's very much you do this summer, this will happen next season. Whereas with the outgoings, it was so up in the air what was to come after those players left and the new set of players came in, that you couldn't really hold them accountable. I think this is the window that what comes next season, we can hold them to account, whether that's, listen, well done, Kroenke, you've changed my mind, or you are changing my mind, or whether it's, listen, I told people what the Kroenkes are about and they're fucking doing it again. Either way, I think we'll definitively know whether all of this full ownership talk and be excited is and the process ends with major trophies.
Can I answer that first? Just because I think, yeah, it probably is the Kroenke's most important transfer window for two reasons. One, because there's a lot of teams this year I think are going to go big. I think, well, United's ownership model and who owns the club, we don't know yet. I think the way that Ten Hag and Jurgen Klopp at their two clubs have proven how good they are, I reckon they'll be batting up their ownerships to say, listen, if I'm going to do anything here, I need 300 mil. I need 300 mil. Yeah, especially Klopp. I reckon Klopp's been saying to those guys at Liverpool, listen, I'm top 3 in the world. Yeah, I am top 3 in the world. If you want to keep me here, I need 3 new midfielders and, I don't know, a left back, whatever it may be. So I think those two clubs will back their teams. Chelsea will go again. Chelsea will go again. I don't know about Spurs. Not quite sure how Spurs are going to play this game in terms of being in the mix. But you're also up against teams that don't spend the big P's, but they're just intelligent. So I think for Kroenke, it's important that they do make a statement this summer because they're up against two different types of teams that are bringing in players. Those are going to throw money at the problem and those that are just doing the diligent, intelligent work. The second reason I think it's important for the Kroenkes is because they've seen that what they've spent in the last 2 years is a lot of money, but it's still not enough to win a title. So if you want to go all the way, you're going to have to either do the Chelsea thing and just whack out 300 mil and bring in 4 top players, as you was alluding to, Turkish, or get your scouts working. Get your scouts working to find the gem that now is 25 mil, but this time next year, he's worth 125 mil. Either way, you've fallen short this season. You've got to go again. So, yeah, I think it is really important. It will never be a 10 out of 10 window, even a 9 out of 10, because I don't think you'll get the 5 players I think we need. I think we need 5 players to really make it a complete window. We ain't getting 5 players, in my opinion. So it will never be more than an 8 out of 10 window. But 8 out of 10 window is still a very, very good window.
Yeah, Turkish, I'm going to flip it a little bit here. Yeah. I actually think it's a bigger window for Arteta and Edu because the Kroenkes just need to make the cash available. And I'm kind of really confident they will.
Well, just is a big word to use when you look at their reputation.
Well, okay, but then they brought us 40 to 50 million pounds worth of talent that I think we're all fairly happy with in January. They spent 120 million in the summer before, and they spent 150 million in the summer before that. Like, I appreciate then you go beyond, and but I mean, recent history is pretty kind to them, and we heard Chris Hudson say that they were willing to spend the Mudryk and the Caicedo money, and for different deals, for different reasons, those deals didn't happen. So I think if we're distributing pressure, not trying to, but it exists. I think it's more on Arteta and Edu. Edu still needs to prove that he can actually get a really big deal over the line, and actually get a really big sale over the line. I know he's your mate, Lee, and I love him as well. But I think he needs to I think Tierney needs to go for 40 million and nothing less. And I think he needs to get a Declan Rice and a kind of statement sign like that through the door, because that ultimately lies with him and Arteta, but mainly him. And I think Arteta needs to. A lot of people have started, and this is a whole other discussion for another podcast, I'm sure. But people are now starting to do the whole, the process. We've improved and we got better year on year, and we challenged for the title this year. We need to see some silverware now. Now, I don't know if I can really sort of say, it's a failure if you don't win silverware or whatever. But the point is that I think next year there's going to be pressure on Arteta to challenge again. Not as easy as it sounds, just because we challenged this year. and really get a cup run and really be competitive in the Champions League. And for that to happen, all these signings that we're going to spend big on, I think, need to somewhat deliver. So I think the pressure's more on him than it is the Cronkies.
You know why I'd have to argue that? Because it's throughout the Cronkies ownership, whether it's part ownership or full ownership, whatever it was, up until the 2018-19 season, we was a profit-making business. Well, I'm speaking from their terms now. We're a business to them. 2019 was our first calendar year loss, and we've been making a loss every year since. Now, that coincides with full ownership, and that also coincides with the upturn in transfer fees and you know, the money we spend year in, year out. Now we're back in top four. There's finer lines and finer profit margins between first, second, third, and fourth than there is between top four and finishing 8th or 5th and being in Europa League or Conference League or not being in Europe at all. So what Arteta's done is bring us back to the point where we finished second. I think when it came out about how much we actually won over the season finishing second, it was 159 million, which wasn't far off what Man City got finishing first. So now the profit margins are a lot closer. Will they rest on their laurels like they was doing under Wenger for years, making top four, making the money, being a profit-making business, or will they risk some of that profit to make a larger profit 3 years down the line because we are back winning major trophies year in, year out? That's where my doubt about them comes in, because as much as you're right, they have spent money over those years. They've spent money to turn the business from a loss-making business to a profit-making business. What will they do now that essentially we should be back to a profit-making business? Do they rest on their laurels and think, you know what, we're back, we're clean, we're in the green? Or do they say to themselves, it's not about the profit, it's about the success? That's where I need to see a change. So yes, we finished second and they got a hell of a lot of money for it, but we'll see their true ambition. Jordan, you mentioned 5 players you want to see. I want to see 5 players, but for argument's sake, let's say 3 players take up the majority of the transfer budget, or 3 players is all that comes in this summer. What would those 3 positions be? That's what I want to know.
2 midfield and a striker.
Would that be an 8 and a 6?
Yeah.
8, 6 and striker.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'd like a defender and a left back, but if you give me 3, I think 2 midfielders and a centre forward.
Yeah, bang on, same 8, 6 and a striker. James?
2 midfielders and a centre back. I think this team has goals in them anyway. Yeah, and I'd risk keeping Balogun or something.
James, I agree with you. Sorry to cut you. I agree with you. I want a centre back because I've got doubts about Gabriel. I really do. But the only reason I went with 2 midfielders and a striker before a centre back is because Ben White as a centre back, I'm comfortable in that cover area at the moment. And Kivior coming in January, he says to me, we ain't buying no centre back. We ain't buying a centre back. Even if Holding goes, we are not buying a centre back. I'll be stunned. So I agree with you. There's definitely a need, in my opinion, for a centre back. I just don't see it. And I think midfield and striker.
Can I then clarify by saying, and a defender? So if that is, so it depends how he sees next season. Do you see White and Saliba in competition with Gabriel and Kivior as the other 2 left backs? Do you see Tomiyasu competing with Zinchenko at left back, or do you see him competing at right back with Ben White? Therefore, do we need a right back? Or it's about where he wants to place them. Maybe he'll go 7 players for 4 positions, and they can most of them can play across any of them. So maybe that will be the way he solves it. But I think a defender is probably needed.
So Lee, me and Jordan have gone with 8, 6 and striker. James has gone with 8, 6 and defender.
I'm going to be really honest with you guys. If we keep everybody right, to a certain degree, I know some are going to go, but if we just sign Casido and Declan Rice, I'll be happy. I'll be happy with that. You know what I mean? Like obviously, if we sell Tierney, when you're going to need a defender of some sort, whether it be a left back or a central defender, I'll be happy. But if we sign them 2 midfield players, I'll be happy. But then, obviously, if Xhaka goes, then maybe another one's got to come in. If you're going to let Tierney go, Tomiyasu or whatever, I think that I'm with you on this, James. I think that we'd all love to centre forward coming in, but if you put in a 70, 80 million pound centre forward, where you might get a little few problems where you're going to play so and so. I know what people go, oh, don't worry about that. But I think they've still got to have harmony in the camp. You know that you've got your games and all that. If they're going to sign Nelson, that covers Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus or Trossard can do that. Maybe there is a case for one more, but I don't think we're desperate in that position. Maybe in a year's time, maybe in January, go for that. But for me, two midfield players is a must. And I would be happy if it's them two. And right back or a centre half would be ideal. I think Holding and Tierney will go.
Lee, just to your point about the centre forward, what we've currently got, the problem I have is that Jesus is a brilliant football player, but he's not clinical. And if you're not going to upgrade, if you're not going to upgrade through the middle, for me, you're then putting pressure on Martinelli and Saka to get 20 goals each. They have to make up for the goals that Jesus won't score. He'll get 15 goals, I reckon, but 15 goals from him. 50, you know what I mean?
That's the problem you're going to have because.
Wait.
And I think you have to. I think that when you're giving players Saka and Martinelli big contracts, they've got to deliver, and I think that they will.
So Lee's answer was he'd be happy with Rice and Caicedo. Turkish, if I offered you that right now, do you take it?
Just Rice and Caicedo? No.
Jordan?
No way. If game one came and we'd only signed Rice and Caicedo, no way. You're battling for top 4 then. You are battling for top 4.
Harsh.
It sounds good on paper. That's what it is, and I get it. I'm so tempted to say yes. I'd be happy. Oh yeah, but I'm so tempted to say yes. I'll be happy until Jesus is out with a groin injury and Eddie's starting a game, or Saliba's picked up a hamstring issue and Holding starting a game. That's when I'll be like, Rice, Caicedo, why the fuck didn't we get a centre back or another striker in? So as much as it sounds good on paper right now, just to accept those two, next season we need to have learnt off this season, and there's a couple names that I find unreliable.
I think if you offer me right now, I would probably also answer no, not because I wouldn't be happy with it, but because I have faith in Arteta and Edu and the Cronkies in this window to deliver a good window. That's why.
You'd also then be overloaded. I mean, I'm assuming that this is on the caveat that no one would leave, right? Or would those two come in?
On the caveat that no one would leave, and actually, I think well, Caicedo answers the right back depth problem. Rice also answers the centre back depth problem, and then you've also got depth for Xhaka and Partey. And
but those two want to play in midfield. If you sign Caicedo and Rice, they're not coming to. Do you know what I mean? They'll play there.
I said the same about Zinchenko, and it's cost me £100.
No, but Zinchenko was a left back. That wasn't like a wild thing to put him at left back. If you signed Declan Rice and Caicedo,
why would he leave City? Why would he leave Manchester City to play left back for Arsenal? And he did.
Because we didn't have a left back.
No, did they?
True. That's true.
Well, I just say I've got some breaking news from Dharmesh, who's on Sky. He's just tweeted that talks over a new contract for William Saliba are progressing positively. Saliba has 1 year left with an option of a further year. That's interesting. So he's got a year left with a further year. That's good.
That means nothing to me, James. I'm sorry to cut you, but just sign the thing. And I don't want to throw us. I don't want to throw our social media team. Sorry, but I don't want to throw our social media team under the bus here as well. But if I see another one of these Instagram posts where it's Declan Rice has apparently been interested in Arsenal, and then the next day some random source in Saudi Arabia quoting Declan Rice is warming to the idea of Arsenal, and then the next day Declan Rice is looking at houses in North London. Stop that nonsense. Just stop it. This is not breaking news. This is following rubbish. Yeah, this transfer thing makes people go crazy. When it's done, or when it's about to be done, let us know. But
next
until
time
then,
there's a position in the social media team, I'll make sure not.
I love them. They're amazing, but I'm just fed up of seeing all these nothing posts about so-and-so saying something about Declan Rice liking Arsenal when he was 7 years old or something.
Can we get social media team? I love them all. They clip this show. Can we get them to clip this very bit?
Yeah.
I'm not having a go. I'm not having a go.
59 minutes in. 59 minutes in.
They do a great job, but I'm just seeing all this talk that makes me nervous. It makes me nervous because I'm like, all this talking and he's interested and we're looking at him and we're preparing a package and
Jordan, maybe it's ain't the best time. I heard he's looking for a house in North London.
I just love the idea of the social team watching this going, what do you say fuck me for?
I'm not having a go, but it's just get the deals done.
He's tired of it. Keeping in mind the time, because it's already hit an hour, so we've only got a few minutes left. This one, just a round robin quick answer, one figure. The bare minimum Arsenal should be spending this summer in order for you to be happy with the output and what the Cronkies have allowed Arteta and Edu to spend. One number, net spend. I'll start 250 million minimum. Jordan?
I think 250 gets you the 3 or 4 players that I think we need. So yeah, 250.
I'm so unambitious.
225.
225
and 99p. Yeah.
James?
I'm so unambitious. My brain started going, so what will 150 get you? No, yeah, it's got to be 200. It's got to be 200.
Got a couple 250s, 1225 and 200 mil. And Lee also wants a new goalkeeper as well, by the way, just to get that out there.
Yeah, new number one.
Listen, let's wrap it up with comments of the day because we're at that time now. Hopefully we've hit 1,000 likes. If we haven't, people, go check now. Make sure you've hit the like button. Leave your comments in the comment section below. What 3 positions would you prioritize? How much should the Cronkies be spending minimum this summer, net spend? And who do you want to see come through? We've already talked about Rice and Caicedo a hell of a lot. If you have any other names, let us know. Who's starting off with comments of the day? Go on, Lee.
Chef C, I think that's his name. I think it's not just comment of the day, it's comment of the season. Like, I'm putting the pressure on it. Better Call Sharoy, new show coming for the 23-24 season. Every Tuesday. But sometimes on a Wednesday and maybe on a Thursday. Absolute class, you know what I mean? So there you go. Well done. Absolutely brilliant.
I'll give that.
Yeah, that is genius.
Genius.
Very, very clever.
You lot have tarnished my name in the YouTube community.
And Saroy's. That's the worst thing.
Sure, I had a good reputation before I dragged.
He did. He was a respected lawyer. And then you come along and just do the day. I got 2 quickies back to back. Aiden Jackson, Pierre Turkish Aubameyang strikes again. Arteta would be fuming. I like that one. And then straight after that, it's got one here from Jordan Hicks Oldham. He says, I like this one. Not even an Arsenal fan, but I love the chemistry between these guys. Great show always. And I love the fans that don't support Arsenal that enjoy the content. So big up all the non-Arsenal fans as well as the Arsenal fans as well. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, great stuff there.
Go on,
did anyone see this one from Red_9?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I got this one too.
Turkish promoting his new show with Sharoy, James promoting Tactical Insight, Lee promoting Victorious Junior. Jordan conveniently knocking his camera over to promote his feet for the upcoming Only. Thanks for an amazing season of content. There were so many. Jordan Zaraf says, to be fair, Jordan, I also would have given Zinchenko a 6 if I only watched the highlights. And then there was another one. Let me just quickly find it. Love this from Simmer, by the way, that he said that it's helped him fall back in love with Arsenal.
Yeah.
Watching this, I love that.
From Namibia, isn't it? I see that one.
Yeah, from Namibia, yeah. I can't remember. There was another, but I think I've lost. Anyway, look, they were great. They were really great.
I've got one here from Audrey. He says, forget the Arsenal transfer window for a minute. This podcast is so good. Arsenal have adopted the name of the podcast and used it as their slogan for the year.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes, they have.
Come on.
Yes, they have. And don't you dare tell me they don't know about it.
Come on.
Yeah. But I also want to say, like, you know, the comments of the day, the comment is just a fantastic feature, and the comments you guys that they've been putting in are, like, you know, absolutely fantastic. You know, it's and some of them I'm just laughing my way through them. I can't wait to say them. They're just brilliant. So well done.
I don't know if this is a kind of a weird, slightly irrelevant thing to say, but I'll say it anyway. Obviously, we with our shows, like, we like to know kind of what's doing well in what certain ways, and Forever Arsenal is one of, if not the most engaged with show on AFTV. Now, that just is testament to all of you in the comments section who are engaging with us and sending in your thoughts and your comments. And I know we don't read all of them out, but we see so many of them. So many.
We read them all.
There's some that get sent in the group early and all that. And so, yeah, just a big thank you to everyone who does, because it's doing wonders for this podcast that has big plans for next season in terms of upping everything we do. So, yeah, you're all making that possible.
On that note, make sure you leave a comment, people. It does help. Make sure you hit the like button. It does help. And you know what else you can do? Every year we like to level up. The first year we brought the prediction league in. This year we brought comments of the day in. What are we going to bring in for next season? We're going to have a talk about it amongst ourselves, but would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. So if you have any segments or features you'd like to see as part of the Forever Arsenal podcast come next season, 2023-24, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.
I just know the comments. They're going to come up with some socks of the day. Like,
socks of the day.
Bed
sheets of the day.
Yeah. They'll come up with some wild things. I look forward to reading them all.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. Lee, James, Jordan, love as always. It's been a pleasure talking to you. We'll be back again next week. I say I might not be here because I'll be on holiday, but maybe we'll get it done when I'm back. Or maybe Sharoy will fill in for me beforehand. We'll see what.
Do I get to host?
Yeah, of course it's Sharoy. Of course it's Sharoy.
Yeah, of course you can, James. Of course you can.
I'm back to hosting, guys.
Oh,
good luck.
Fantastic.
And if you did miss it last week, for the audio listeners, I did win the prediction league.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I've got to go, like, you know, on holiday like that. See you later.
The cheek of these men. And I say men lightly because I don't know what they've just done, but here we are. It's me, Turkish. Hit the like button and look out for the show with me and Sharoy next season. Better call Sharoy. Love for the love. We're out, people.